kind of follow up, kind of consolidate the proceedings over the last few months, and to receive the public record that I asked for. Recall that
yeah, I recall. Okay, so I was under the assumption when I came back from my last meeting, like when I came here today, that Commissioner Bernard would be here. Because if you recall, Mr. Commissioner Bernard seemed to kind of take the bull by the horns there, and he's like, did he ever get back to you? He did not.
I checked in with him a couple times, left voicemail for him, and said I don't want to go on without you if you got something to say. But anyway, the past few months we've been exploring whether or not the sheriff's office has the authority to write traffic tickets to most people in the way that they do to owners and operators of commercial motor vehicles. And according to the best information that we have, which is a result of a default on the part of the county council, Steve Madcour, there isn't any. The next meeting, I asked for a public record that might describe immunity from prosecution for the deputies who do these kinds of tickets without authority under the racketeering statutes. And by default, again, Mr. Madcour has pretty much established that there is no immunity for deputies from prosecution for racketeering. So the last meeting that I was the first Wednesday in April, I asked for the public record that would describe immunity. No, actually it was after that meeting, right? I wrote to you the week following. And I asked for a public record that would describe immunity for officials, which would be elected officials, who know that racketeering is ongoing in their jurisdiction, like Clackamas County, but I didn't say Clackamas County. When they know that racketeering is ongoing in their county and fail to do something which is within their power to bring it to a halt. So that's why I'm here, is to get that public record. And I did summarize this, and I would have emailed it a little bit sooner, but I was having trouble with my program that attaches, so I couldn't quite get it to attach to an email. But here's a copy, and I have one for each one of you folks. And it starts with the first installment where I was asking the sheriff, but the document that you're looking at brings us up to tonight. And and the reason I'm interested in this, the reason I personally got involved, I got arrested for attempting to report or at least investigate racketeering. I was instructed by the district attorney's office to call the sheriff and talk to the sheriff about this. And of course the sheriff might have a conflict of interest. And so they got threatening, and they said, if you don't quit trying to talk to us about this, we're going to arrest you, and they did. So that kind of got me a little bit aggravated. I ended up spending way too much time in jail without a day in court. But I do have a court date coming up. The next court date is 15th this month, 2 more weeks. And there's a subpoena in there. I have a subpoena for each of the commissioners who've been experiencing and kind of reviewing this with me. And I'd like you guys to come and testify and explain whether or not we could find, or whether or not there is a public record, a law, that lets the deputies write tickets to most people like they do to owners and operators of commercial motor vehicles. And maybe you could even explain your theory of immunity, any defenses that you might have, because if you don't have one, then I believe that a fair trial would be in order.
Okay. So just so for people who are unfamiliar with what Mr. Koenig is referring to, what I've learned the night that you came here at the last round table, and since then, is that I think you have found maybe an issue in state statute where all counties have the same, or what you feel that there's no
Racketeering-
authority for.
racketeering is
no
ongoing
authority.
in every county.
Let me finish.
You're right.
Let me finish. That there's no county that has a statute that you feel is appropriate or needed, and that you feel that, and you've tackled this with other counties besides Clackamas. You ran into this, and you've also attempted and tried to get a legislative action or fix. So,
No.
well, that's my understanding. So I'm not here making any statements, but that's,
Okay.
you know,
I can fill in.
I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah,
I
I
will
can fill in.
make sure I pass this on to county council. I'll give him a copy. I'll read it and I'll give him a copy.
He's a great guy, isn't he? You're not gonna fire him, are you?
I'm not planning on firing him.
Good. So there was a few moments when there was kind of wondering whether he was competent or not being able to come up with the law that I was asking for. But I said, well, the county commissioners have the authority to fire him and get another guy that they trust. But he's still on the payroll, so you trust him.
Yeah.
Okay, and he can't come up with the law.
Well, I apologize for everyone around the table that we spent so much time on the other issue, but it's a recent hot issue.
No problem.
And there's only 20 minutes left, so I'm gonna kind of go around
No
the room to
problem.
make sure that everyone gets a chance. So,
Okay.
you, sir?
I'm just here, I'm interested in Richard's, what he's doing. Great support.
You, sir?
Yes, I'd like to give this gentleman here, Mr. Koenig, my time. I would forfeit, sacrifice what I was here to talk about tonight to give this man more time if he needs it.
And you, sir?
I would like to give Mr. Koenig my time as well. I believe in what he's doing and feel that he can speak for me.
Okay. And you, sir? You just walked in. So I'm gonna take, Karen was next. So Karen? How can I help you?
I'm interested in what he has to say too.
And it's for staff, your last name is Bitts, if I remember right.
Yes,
So
yeah.
Could you spell it for Kimberly?
Karen BITG. And I'm really concerned, like I've shared with you before, about the corruption that's going on in Clackamas County Sheriff's Department, wrongful incarcerations for profit, and I've sent you and the other commissioners email correspondence with documents attached more than once, and I have gotten no reply from any of them. And I would just like to find out if you're getting them.
Okay. So when was the last time, when you say find out if I'm getting them, when was the last time you sent me one?
On 4/13, I sent you one.
4/13 of this year?
Yep.
Okay.
In fact, I'll send you a copy here on that one. My concerns with the letter to Craig Roberts. And I sent you, all of you, another one January 19th of 2011, explaining the profiteering in the prison system and wrongful incarcerations of innocent people. What's going on is everyday business.
Okay. Well, I will look into that. I assume, Karen, because I'm going to look here before I jump, but I assume that was being handled.
Richard, you want to talk about?
Because you and I had actually talked way back in 2010 or 11, if I
Yep.
recall right.
And we got you elected.
Commissioner Savas, I know that I forwarded that over to the sheriff's office for them to distribute to their professional standards unit.
Okay.
I might have not forwarded it on to the board, so I would take responsibility for that, but I did forward it to the sheriff's office, which is our protocol and office. So I take
Well, I put it very
responsibility.
clearly on there that I want it delivered to all of the.
I
Clackamas.
apologize, I'm taking responsibility for that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I would say, I'm looking at the April 13th, and I think Kimberly's right, which was a Saturday, according to this, so, and March 14th. Okay. So I'll look into that, and that should list forward that to Mr. McCord as well.
You can send this on.
Yeah, okay. So we'll get that to you.
Okay, yeah. Well, this is just a letter that I sent to Craig Roberts, and of course, he's never responded to any phone calls or messages that I've sent him either. So I was kind of amused that he would send me a letter asking me for money, telling me I'd be an honored part of the Sheriff's Department support group if I would send him money, when he won't even bother returning my phone calls or anything, you know, and I think it's quite a joke. But anyway, I'm one of those many that don't have any faith in some of our sheriff's detectives anymore. And especially when he will not even join our our constitutional sheriffs to protect our Second Amendment rights. That really concerns me, especially with all the misconduct with his own detectives that he covers up. That's on the news quite often. In fact, you can go on the internet, Behind the Blue Wall, Oregon's Scariest Cops. There's quite a few websites that have a lot of information on sheriff's detectives that the department has been well notified of their misconduct, abuse of their family members and others, and Roberts has chosen to do nothing about it until somebody gets shot, you know.
Okay.
Or like that young man recently got his face all busted up by his stepdad. It's been in the news, Clackamas County Sheriff Detective. But anyway, yeah, it really concerns me. These people that we pay to protect us, and they're not, you know. And the way that they've violated my family is just unconscionable.
So when is your son scheduled to be released?
It's a 10-year sentence.
And he's how far in?
4.5 years stripped of his life for something he didn't do. And nobody cares. There's no remedy at all in our system, our court system, at all. You can spend, like right now, the legislature a year or so ago okayed to raise the filing fees for post-conviction, which is part of your supposed remedy process. They raised it to $240 for an inmate to file their post-conviction paperwork. And keep in mind that they're making slave wages, about $2 a day, if they're lucky. And then that's over 6 months of income for them. And then they know full well that the chances are pretty good that they get back nothing but one word: denied or dismissed. All your court paperwork. The judges don't even have to give you a reason why. And everything that I file that has constitutional references, ORSs, Uniform Trial Court rules, Oregon administrative rules, they just totally blow it off. They don't even address it. And I'm really disgusted with our corrupt officials, because it's obviously a big profiting scheme. Prison bonding, court bonding, the money that you can trace through Maryland Lynch and Fidelity and Dun & Bradstreet, that they're profiting off of incarcerating people.
I would take a couple minutes that I've been seated. I'll try to stick under 2 minutes.
Okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. My plan was, Richard, is I'm going to listen to Mr. Sariano. Dick?
Oh, I just had a quick
And then
question.
we'll get the time you left over, we'll divvy that up.
Yeah, give the rest of my time.
I was wondering, Paul, what part of, when there's a sheriff's levy and if it passes, percentage-wise, what part of that amount of money, whatever it is for that particular levy, will stay in the general fund rather than being forwarded on to the sheriff? Is there
Everything that is collected on the levy goes directly to the sheriff.
Everything
And
is
then
there.
there's also the ELED, and Mr. Martwick here is, I believe, are you the chair, the current chair of the ELED?
Vice chair.
Vice chair. And so there's also another one on your tax statement, which is the Enhanced Law Enforcement Education District? No. Law Enforcement District, LED. And they receive the full ticket. So none of those monies, the levy or the ELED, go to the general fund. What comes from the general fund is the lion's share of the sheriff's operating money. So he gets the majority of the non-restricted general fund property tax money.
okay?
To the tune of how many million?
The numbers go like this. The general fund money that goes to the sheriff is around $44 million. And the local option levy is around $9 million. And the enhanced law enforcement district is around $5 million.
So it totals like 60-something million.
Closing in on that. And then there's a few other sources he has as well, but those are the largest.
What does the county have in terms of discretionary money, 110 million or something?
Well, with efforts all
What I mean
done.
is, yeah, you know.
After the sheriff?
Oh,
What I'm
including the
saying is
sheriff?
that the sheriff's getting better than 50, the county's only getting 110.
A little over 100 million.
Yeah, a little over 100, actually, of non-restricted.
Right.
Well, yeah, restricted and non-restricted.
Okay.
So general fund from those, it goes all to him.
Okay, I was under the impression that some of that money went into the general fund and then, the commissioners, that have to deal with their budget.
No.
And some of it got, not a very good word, siphoned off or shoved.
No, I know,
somewhere.
that word is another caustic word in my opinion, because it's not true. It just isn't true. And, another thing, I'm doing the best I can to try to clarify or to figure out you hear all this stuff bubble up. And right around budget time, you'll hear all the departments, they're trying to lobby for money, so you can represent the numbers in a certain way and say things, and then sometimes they're inflammatory, and it gets everyone wild up. Oh, the county commissioners are, well, guess what? It's all record. I mean, the budget numbers don't change. So, that we're cutting positions or we're doing this. Not true. It's just, so you got to really watch the wording and realize that what happens up to the day the budget's finally approved, the last day of June or near the last day of June, that you'll hear that's a common thing to hear certain departments saying that they're having, and there are cuts. There are cuts. Sometimes there's cuts, and departments aren't, Health and Human Services, there's areas that are being cut. There are rollbacks, and then we're trying to fill in some of those blanks from the states that roll in the back, or federal government that's rolling back funding. So we end up getting stuck with a service we're providing that was always provided for by state or federal funding that one day either fully or partially gets reduced. And people want that service and are used to getting that service, and we're caught with, geez, what do we do? Do we backfill it, or do we just cut it? And we're running out of choices.
Can I amplify on that?
Sure, you can.
A really good example of that is community corrections, which is parole, probation, post-prison supervision. The state has, with us, we've blended money from county discretionary money. The state has also funded that, realizing that if they don't fund it to a certain level, we can send that whole work type of thing back to the state, which they don't want to do. What they've carefully done, though, is fund it just above that level of what's called opt-out funding, where we can opt out. And for a long time, the county policy was not to backfill when state or federal public agencies stopped funding things or gradually reduced. We weren't going to take our scarce discretionary money and backfill that. That eased up a couple of years ago when the state really cut short on community corrections, and we have put in some discretionary money into them in the last year. And we'll be probably putting in some more in the coming year, because the commissioners tend to agree that that's a real vital service, that we do it right, that it's important how this post-prison supervision is done. So that's an example of backfilling, and when you do it, when you don't, and what happens when money is tight. And it's tight at all levels, federal, state, county, whatever. It's just divvying up scarce resources is budgeting, and that's part of the deal.
Well, I was aware that the budget was, in the 40-some percentile range that the county.
For the sheriff.
Right, but you start hearing these comments about it's not getting funded that way, it's going here, going there, part of it, and I'm glad to know that. I've heard that more than one time, that it sounded that it was being shifted to another service.
The odd thing is that for me, it's been a little frustrating that come budget time, when we're going through days and days of the budget, that people want to know the facts. If they were happen to be in the room, and see the numbers, or the public pull up the budget submitted to the state. The sheriff has to submit it. We've got to submit it. We submit a budget. You can see the numbers. You can see the consistency, and you won't see any wild changes, in personnel or anything else like that. So that's where the buck stops. You can't. We're not gonna. You can't alter a state record submitted to the state, and that speaks for itself. So with a few minutes left, and being all that time has been gifted to Mr. Koenig, I'll let Mr. Koenig finish off. So you have a whole 5-minute swath, maybe a little bit more.
I'm going to try to do it in 2, if you don't mind. It's a sordid
I'll test
story,
it.
and I don't
I'll
want to
test it.
dwell on it.
We got the clock right up there.
But I was arrested on this stupid stuff over by Sherry's. I was surrounded by, I was going into town with a friend to buy a book about somebody who was similarly affected. And we were surrounded by 11 cop cars, 2 county cop cars, two
State
counties.
police.
State police, West Lynn, Oregon City, Multnomah County, obviously a coordinated deal, obviously surveillance, the expenditure of funds for surveillance made it all possible. Guns drawn, screaming their heads off. Fortunately, we got pulled into Sherry's, which meant that there were some witnesses in the window, and so they didn't pull the triggers. No warrant on them, and the only warrant that existed at the time was a bogus warrant that no one with any personal knowledge swore to in Marion County. There was no Marion County officer that they were to assist. There was no Marion County up here on the arrest to assist. So they were totally unauthorized. They stuck me in jail here for a couple of days. I said, I'm not leaving until I go in front of a magistrate to test the validity of the warrant. They shipped me to Marion County unlawfully without being allowed to test the validity. I ended up spending 300 days in jail without 1 day in court, 4.5 months of which were in the state hospital, supposedly getting me ready to, aid and assist in my own defense.
Chemical lobotomy.
They wanted to do that. They
That's what
weren't
they do,
successful
yeah.
in doing that. 2 out of the 3 counties that wanted me for the exact same charges, bothering them about this problem,
Was Multnomah County one of those?
Multnomah County and Marion County, dropped the charges on the pretext that I was unable to aid and assist. Clackamas County has said, those counties are full of baloney. We're going to give you a fair trial here, which you're now subpoenaed to appear at. And 3 judges have agreed. 3 judges from Clackamas County have agreed that the other 2 counties were full of baloney. And the last time I got arrested, same kind of thing, arrested for trespassing on the sidewalk in front of the state capitol. Another 50 days in jail without 1 day in court, no arraignment. But the gal who did the psychological on me on that occasion, she said, oh, there's no reason why he can't aid and assist. He's perfectly lucid and he understands the court system a lot. That to point out the extent of the racketeering here, this is just to point that out. The judge, the presiding court judge of Marion County, had the charges dismissed. She wasn't physically present in the courtroom on the pretext that I would not be able to aid and assist, and she has refused to allow me to see that evaluation, which the psychologist has subsequently admitted found me totally able. So we now have caught the presiding court judge in Marion County for lying. The undersheriff is investigating and interviewing that judge now. But it's a huge deal. It is in every county. A friend of mine did the research and he interviewed half of the sheriffs in this county or in this state and found that every one of them would threaten his well-being if he said, if I move into your county, are you going to hurt me if I just come and go in my personal use vehicle and I don't have the paperwork of a taxi driver? And they all said, yeah, we're going to write you tickets, impound your car, maybe arrest you, etc. So yeah, you're right. It is going on everywhere. So don't feel like I'm picking on you personally, because I tried it in a few other counties. But we're going to start the domino effect here.
People are waking up to the truth and the reality of what's going on. And let me add one thing. When Richard was in the hospital, when they first did an intake on him, there was 2 doctors that did an intake on him. He wanted it recorded, documented, a counsel there at the time, and they refused to do that, so he refused to give them any feedback. So they were lucky if they spent, maybe 30 minutes with you in the 3 months you were there?
I think they admitted to 20 minutes each.
Okay. During the hearing and the trial, these 2 doctors had over 4 hours of testimony why Richard should be chemicalized. Now you tell me something's not wrong with that picture?
Yeah, they had their operating instructions from somebody too.
Absolutely.
There is no justice in our justice system, and there's no remedy. when you want to make things right, when you want to correct things.
It's all about profits and money and generating it, just like all the police out there. Their agenda is to protect the corporation and to protect their paychecks. And I've always said it's almost impossible to show anyone the truth when their paychecks depend on them not knowing the truth.
And we study all the details of it, so we know.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Okay,
Thank
see
you all
on
for
the
coming.
14th,
Thank you.
9 o'clock.
Thank you for your time.
When?
9 o'clock on the 14th,
Which 14th of what month?
this month.
Is that right? What day is that?
The 16th is the last page stapled at the back.
You have to show today's the first, so.
You circus subpoena in here?
Yeah.
All right, Wookie.
I saw it.
That was sneaky.